Recapping our top story this hour, the Constitutional Court has declared the appointment of National Prosecuting Authority head Shaun Abrahams as unconstitutional. Abrahams was appointed after his predecessor Nthakoana was removed. Ngatane accepted a 17 million rand golden handshake from former President Jacob Zuma as part of a settlement agreement. The court also found Ngatane's removal was invalid. Our reporter Nthakoana Ngatane spoke to Ngatane outside court. She also spoke to Corruption Watch, which took the matter of the removal of Ngatane to the High Court, and Copes Masiwa Lekota.
Bittersweet victory in the sense that I'm happy. It's sweet in the sense that my appeal has been upheld by the Constitutional Court. Bitter in the sense that the court didn't order my reinstatement and ordered that I have to repay the whole amount.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about the fact that the court says that the fact that you took the payout that was given to you means that you cannot be not held liable also, or not, you are not necessarily not to blame.
Yes, that's what the court said. I think the court arrived at a decision invoking the provisions of Section 172 of the Constitution, which basically empowers the court to give an order that is just and equitable. Ordinarily, as the court has explained, that ordinarily it would have the outcome that would have followed after it had found that my removal from office was unconstitutional was the reinstatement. And the court went on to explain why it felt that it had to invoke those provisions. What we should not lose sight of is that it's a split decision. We have a minority decision that found in my favor, which basically was of the view that I should be reinstated, but the majority decision was of the view that it should be not just and equitable that I've been reinstated.
Yeah, I'm pleased at the outcome. I mean, what we asked for was granted, as it was granted by the High Court and now is confirmed by the Constitutional Court. Let's hope that this is the beginning of a renewal for the NPA. You heard the court refer to the chronic instability that has plagued the NPA for the last 10 years. And maybe more, and a chronic instability caused by political interference in the work of the institution and in the work of its director. Let's hope that this brings that to an end.
Our judiciary has once again confirmed its reliability, and it's been exceptionally incisive in analyzing this case, and I hope that this judgment must be seen as the beginning of the process of taking South Africa right back to the constitutional route that President Mandela placed us on. And I hope that this judgment and others that will follow it will continue to correct all the abuses of the Constitution and the law by the corrupt administrations in particular, starting with the administration of former President Zuma.
Well, for more on the story, I'm joined in studio by my colleague Nthakoana Ngatane. Good afternoon, Nthakoana.
Good afternoon, Nambu.
Good stuff. So this is quite an amazing decision, but I suppose it wasn't really that much of a surprise.
Not really, because this is a judgment that was passed by the North Gauteng High Court. It was just for the Constitutional Court to say whether or not it agrees with it. So we were expecting it to go either way. However, I think it's quite an indictment on former President Jacob Zuma. He's facing corruption charges, and his administration is seen as having been corrupt. So something like this that is confirmed by the court to say that in fact he did abuse his power as the president. I've just listened to what Masiwa Lekota is saying in terms of the Constitution being abused, but is it really the Constitution being abused, or is it people abusing the Constitution? Because, if you look at it, I think the drafters of the Constitution believed that the people who would take power would have the,
they wouldn't abuse
the personality not to abuse it. Yes. But as it appears now, that's exactly what happened in this case. But of course, it's not just people who abused it, but people who were beneficiaries of that abuse, who unfortunately have lost. Shaun Abrahams directly, but Nkolisi Ngasana indirectly also, because I even asked him, don't you think you were also a beneficiary of this improper conduct? He says not, but the court does say that the reason he's not being reinstated is because as a law professional, as somebody who was holding a position that was expected to safeguard the rule of law in the country, he got himself in the middle of accepting what some may even consider a bribe.
Absolutely. So he accepted that 17 million rand, and the court has ruled that he must pay back 10.2 million rand. Why is that? Why doesn't he pay the whole of it?
I think it speaks to the other order that the court has made, and that is the order regarding the unconstitutionality of two sections of the National Prosecuting Authority Act, 12.6 and 12.4. One deals with the president being able to appoint someone beyond the age of 65. The other one deals with the amount of money that should be paid to a person when they are on suspension, when an inquiry is being made into whether or not they're fit to hold office. Now, in Ngasana's case, what had happened was that before he left office, before he accepted the 17.3 million, the president had said that he wanted an inquiry to check whether he was in fact fit to be in office. But when he then interdicted that process, it wasn't quite clear what then happened, and then the settlement then came to the fore that they had agreed that he would leave office without the inquiry happening. So I suppose the 10.3 million, in terms of now the amendment that is now being proposed, is whether a person should be paid and how much they should be paid. And I think the amount then comes to what he should have been paid if he was on suspension, or if he was out of office, or if he was retired, according to the judgment that has now been made.
Okay. And then lastly, Nthakoana, because we're running out of time. So obviously the big deal now is that we need a replacement at, the NPA head, right? Yes. Do we have any possible candidates, do you think? And the decision has to be made within the next 90 days, right?
Yes, I think the two things that we need to look at, Nompu. The first one is, who will it be? And I've heard some rumblings around Vusi Pikoli, who you know is another former. And over the years, we have had so many of the National Directors of Public Prosecutions who have left office under kind of dubious circumstances, and we didn't quite know, was it to do with the work that they did or not. So we understand that there might be something with Vusi Pikoli, but that's not confirmed. But also the other issue, I think, is the question of whether the president alone, in fact, should continue to be the person who appoints the National Director of Public Prosecutions. If you look at Section 9 institutions like the Public Protector, they are appointed by Parliament, and this is a very transparent process. But in terms of the National Director of Public Prosecutions, it has really not been transparent up to now, and we really don't know how it is done. So maybe those are the two things that might happen. First, who is it? We don't know, we'll find out. And how they are appointed might even come to question now that this has happened, and we know that the Constitution and the Act itself can be taken advantage of.
That last question that you posed about who should actually appoint, I'm sure you'll be interrogating the powers that be about that. Otherwise, we run the risk of this being a consistent problem.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much, Nthakoana. That was my colleague Nthakoana Ngatane, just reporting on that Constitutional Court decision.